So make sure you, after you leave, some Côte d'Or. So you'll have to thank her when she's out there as well. I want to introduce Erica Pandey. Erica, come on out because we're going to start talking about Planet or Plastics, our National Geographic panel as well. So hi there, welcome.
Hi.
All right, so Erica, you're with Axios.
I am, yes.
So talk a little bit. You may not know who Axios is.
Yes, so Axios, we're a new media company. We launched 2 days before Trump's inauguration. And it's been a wild ride since. We cover all sorts of news from science to politics to tech and business. And my focus is, I focus on China and also some of the companies in China, and then I also cover Amazon. And you know, this is a global problem, so I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give it over to you.
Awesome. So we're going to kick off the discussion with a video from National Geographic that kind of sets the scene for what we'll be discussing here today.
Plastic is not meant to be in the ocean at all. It can cause harm to wildlife, it can cause harm to people, and it's breaking down and starting to enter the food chain. Plastic has been found in every single bit of the ocean that people have looked. We're on the Danahan Bank, one of 6 double barrier reefs in the world. We knew there were a lot of fishing nets on the island. You can see them lying around, entangled in the mangroves, lying on the beaches. So our challenge was to find a solution that was going to work in an isolated island community. How do you balance marine protection with your day-to-day needs? And if you're worried about where your next meal is coming from, your needs are absolutely immediate. We knew that more and more nets are being used as there's less and less fish and people are more and more desperate. Working with the local community, we were able to develop a global supply chain to collect nets, aggregate nets, bale nets, export nets from the Philippines to Europe, recycle those nets to nylon yarn that then can be made into carpet. Just from this one island, we've had 18 tons of nets. What is so inspiring for me is seeing a community energized and mobilized to actually make change because they believe they can make a difference for their future and for their children's future. There is hope, there is optimism, and there are solutions. And I'm hopeful that this is just the start.
Let's start the discussion with Lillygol Sedaghat. Can I invite you on stage, Lillygol? So she is a Fulbright National Geographic digital storyteller who's working on documenting Taiwan's waste management system, plastics recycling, and circular economy initiatives. She uses art to tell stories. Her work includes an infographic demystifying the plastics recycling process, music videos featuring trash sounds from Taiwan's waste management system, and a 12-day Zero Plastic Waste Challenge video series. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll let you get started and chat about your work a little bit.
Sure. So I just spent the last 9 months in Taiwan studying their waste management system. So what that meant was following trash trucks, figuring out what recycling actually looks like, going to plastic factories and seeing how straws are made and packaged, how they're pelletized, and then working with the local community to understand different types of ways to recycle. What are the innovations that are happening in the Aboriginal communities, for instance? What are happening in the industry field, on the policy side? And then speaking to the people who sort trash for a living. I think the issue is out of sight, out of mind, particularly for a lot of Americans. We kind of just throw it into a bin and then it disappears the next day. And that was the way that I was, because I'm a really avid consumer of Taiwanese bubble milk tea. Love that stuff. And in fact, it only took me until I graduated from college to realize that for the past 10 years of drinking this drink, that every time that I was consuming it and throwing it away, I was destroying the environment that I loved, because we don't have a recycling system set up for PP plastic cups and straws. In fact, you can't recycle straws. So I suddenly realized there was this massive supply chain that was connecting Taiwan to the United States. And upon doing further research, I found that Taiwan is considered one of the world's geniuses in recycling, as deemed by the Wall Street Journal. So there's this interesting tension that's taking place on the island between being a big plastics hub, where they have the most sophisticated plastic supply chain in the world, and then this transformation before becoming garbage island to a world genius of recycling, and then the exportation of waste abroad. So I wanted to explore those themes and narratives, talk to the people who are sorting trash for a living. Why do they do what they do? Where does it actually go? And bring that to light back in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that we were chatting about backstage, you were saying Taiwan is an economy that kind of keeps its plastic within itself and has a circular economy.
Yes.
And that's very different from us here in the US.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, definitely. So circular economy, for folks who are unfamiliar with this topic, is this idea that you could take a resource and reuse, recycle, reuse throughout the life cycle of that product. So if you have a resource like plastic, it comes from oil. And then you use it once, and typically you just throw it away. And that goes into a landfill or an incinerator, or unfortunately in the ocean. But the way that we use it just once and then it's disposed of. But the idea of circular economy is, how can you take that resource and maximize its life cycle throughout the entire usage? Not just when it's on the shelf and when you use it, but what can you do after or before? So Taiwan is doing some really incredible things, both on the policy side and on the environmental and industrial side. So for instance, these boba milk tea cups made out of PP. When people drink them and they throw them away, they have these older women who specifically sort them, wash them, rinse them clean, and they get sent to a company called Dafon. And what they do is they take those bubble milk tea cups and they turn them into materials for solar-teched urinals, for instance, or pens or calendars. So it's this idea of reusing it. They also have a company that focuses specifically on recycling glass. And they take that and they make entire streets that are sparkling with glass shards and art exhibits. They also take the glass from the LCD glass from your smartphone that's disposed, and they transform them into lightweight bricks that you can use that are heat resistant. So there's a lot of really incredible innovations and solutions to this idea that I think we can learn from and apply within our own nation.
Mm-hmm. And you, in your infographic, you have with us here, right?
Yeah, so this is a picture of Taiwan in the mountain villages. This is a tea farm, and this is a trash truck we followed for 7 hours as they went through different indigenous villages up in the mountainside collecting trash. This is actually just a photo was done by Randy Olson that you find in the digital print National Geographic, about a community of people in Bangladesh who have to sort different colored bottles. So I'm not sure if you're familiar in terms of recycling. You have to sort the colored bottles from the non-colored bottles.
And this is imported trash from Western countries.
That's right, yeah. That's right. So the United States actually exported a lot of our recycling as well as our trash to China. They no longer accept that anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's going to other places like Vietnam and India and Bangladesh. So we have a responsibility as consumers and as people and as a society to do our due diligence to make sure that it doesn't just use once it gets thrown away. In fact, a lot of people don't know, in terms of recycling, very, very basic stuff, that not all things are recyclable, especially plastics. Not all plastics are recyclable. You have numbers 1 through 7, but PS, for instance, which is number 6, you can't recycle it. That's styrofoam, or little bubbles you get, little peanuts you get in a package and you can't recycle those, or straws, you can't recycle those because they're so small. And a lot of people don't know actually as well that your Starbucks coffee cup, on the outside has a recycling symbol, it's paper, but on the inside it's lined with a plastic filling. And unless you separate those two materials, they cannot be recycled. And in fact, if you still have liquid or any sort of food residual left in your recyclable, that also taints the waste stream, and you can't recycle that. Because you have to think of recycling also as a business model, right? If people have to purchase recycling goods, the quality of the goods have to be very good to compete with virgin materials in the market. So if a waste stream is contaminated, right? So you say you have your yogurt in your yogurt cup or your Starbucks coffee in there, then you can't recycle that because the quality is already poor. So a lot of things that we as individuals and consumers here in the United States can do. We can wash our recyclables before we throw them away. We can separate our materials. We can build eco-values within our own families and sort trash in the right way instead of dumping it all into one thing that ultimately will never disappear.
And how do we teach people to do this?
Well, I think it starts first and foremost by understanding in your community what system are you a part of. So for instance, I live in San Diego, California, and in my apartment complex, we have a waste management, privatized waste management company that takes our trash. So knowing who they are, where does the trash go? What actually is mandated by your city as recyclable? So for instance, glass is recyclable. You can recycle it infinitely and reuse it over and over again. But in my apartment complex, our waste management company does not accept that as recyclable. So you need to understand what is valuable within your city, within your community, be a part of that. And being a part of the solution means taking active awareness of how much plastic is in your life and what you can do to make a difference. So for instance, I bring my own cup, I bring my own straw, I bring my own utensils everywhere that I go. And I normalize it as if I'm bringing in my own ID, my own wallet. And those are things that we take out and go out in the day with every single day to live our lives. And if we can normalize those things as part of our day-to-day, then we can truly make a difference.
I mean, that's fascinating. Let's continue the discussion with Imogen Napper. Imogen, can I invite you out on stage? Imogen is a marine biologist and a National Geographic Sky Ocean Rescue Scholar. Her work actually recently helped influence the ban of microbeads in cosmetics internationally. And she's now finishing up her PhD in marine science at Plymouth University, focusing on the sources of plastics in marine environments. Imogen, do you want to tell us about the microbeads thing? I think that's really fascinating.
So I'm not a typical marine scientist. I fell into it, you could say, because I'm so passionate about keeping our oceans clean. I grew up in a small seaside town called Clevedon, which is to the west of the UK, and it's known for its fish and chips, its long Victorian pier, and we look over the estuary onto our neighbouring country, Wales. And growing up, I never thought of beach cleaning as my visits to the beach. I considered sandcastles and swimming and being scared what was underneath me when I was in the water. But now when I'm talking to my friends' kids, I'm asking them, what do you think when we go to the beach? And they're saying, beach cleans and litter. And I wanted to be part of the solution. This really upsets me. It's our ocean and we need to keep it clean. So I started my research at the University of Plymouth doing exactly that. I was looking at the sources and fate of plastic into the marine environment. And my first research piece was really interesting. So we're looking at facial scrubs in cosmetics, and tiny plastic particles called microbeads were put in these cosmetics to exfoliate our skin. So our skin would be nice and smooth, getting the dead skin off. But no one had ever researched how much plastic could be in one of these bottles. And in the past picture, that showed how much plastic could be in one bottle. We found that up to 3 million plastic particles could be present there, and that was really scary. And the most exciting thing was that we could use this research to influence industry, government, and also ourselves. And there's a really nice story that I remember where I was doing some outreach, and a guy came up to me and he said, so what are you going to tell me about this microbead thing? And I was like, well, in this bottle, there could be up to 3 million tiny microbeads, which are tiny plastic particles. We wash our faces, they go down the drain, and then potentially into our oceans. And he said, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And he ran home, apparently, and he was going to tell all of his friends not to use them. And that's exactly what research is there to be done for. And the next bit of research I'm doing is looking at washing our clothes. So a large majority of our clothes are made out of plastic, such as polyester, acrylic, or natural synthetic blend. And we found that for an average wash of acrylic clothing, up to 700,000 fibres could come off our clothes and potentially, like the facial scrubs, make their way into the marine environment. And I'm really excited to do my next bit of research with National Geographic, looking at different inventions that we can put inside the washing machine to try and capture these tiny fibres and provide us all with a solution to this problem.
So, I mean, this is really interesting to me. We were even talking backstage about contact lenses being a potential source. What made you think of these, alternative sources of plastic that not many people think of? We think of plastic bottles, fishing nets, as was in the video. Why these tiny sources? What made you realize that maybe these are adding up?
Well, plastic is everywhere. I mean, if we look around this room, our clothes are made out of plastic, the lanyards, bits of the TV. It's a really great material because it's so durable and it does what it says on the tin, but we're just making so much of it. And there was a lot of focus on the typical ways that we think could pollute the ocean, such as plastic bottles or carrier bags. But there wasn't that much research looking into common ways we're polluting that we don't necessarily always think of. I used to use microbeads in facial scrubs, I used to buy some of the brands, and it really shocked me that sometimes ignorance is bliss. And in research, we were identifying the unknown, getting answers, and then using those answers to influence others for the greater good of the ocean.
Thanks so much, Imogen, and we'll keep talking in a bit, but let's bring on Madeddu. Manu is actually Executive Vice President of Global Brand Strategy here at National Geographic. Through his work, he brings the Nat Geo vision to life by inspiring the explorer in all people. And he's created multimedia campaigns that have won awards around the world. So it's great to have you here on stage, and I'll let you chat about your work a bit.
Sure. Thank you all for coming here. What we believe at National Geographic is that a good story can have an impact in the world. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a story about something good, but needs to be a good story. What you're hearing from Lily and Imogen is exactly about that. This is what National Geographic has all been about, is this idea of creating a community of scientists, educators, explorers that go out in the world and want to help everyone to understand the world better, to give then to a community of fans, readers, viewers, followers out there the tools then to make a change and to drive impact. The Planet or Plastic initiative is probably the latest example that we have launched at National Geographic now. It's like 4 months ago, and really wants to achieve exactly that. We want to find ways to fund with grants explorers that really want to make an impact, and then tell these stories throughout our media platforms. We have National Geographic magazine and TV channels in more than 170 countries around the world. The UN recognizes 191, so we're pretty much everywhere. A little known story, on Instagram, we are the #1 brand. Granted, we have the Kardashians above us, not all of them. We have, I think, Selena Gomez, we have Cristiano Ronaldo, but then the first brand is National Geographic. And if you don't follow us, please go there, and you will see every time we post a video or a photo, it's not just the number of likes, but the comments to the story that is told in the little blurb section are fantastic. People really want to know more, want to be engaged. And I feel this is our role as a brand. We are uniquely positioned as National Geographic to really deliver a virtuous cycle, allowing more people to make an impact, but at the same time empowering everyone out there to become an explorer in their own ways. Maybe not many of you will end up going to the highest of the mountains or to the deepest of the oceans to make an impact, but we want to make sure we give people out there enough tools to make an impact in their own lives. I want to show you a slide that we use. This is an ugly way that we use internally, but I wanted to show this to you, how we focus. We want to make sure that we can make an impact, empowering consumers, people that consume time, spend money with us to actually be connected with a brand that has purpose and is mission-driven. At the same time, through the work of the explorers and the scientific organization of National Geographic, we want to find ways to influence institutions and regulatory changes, like we want to do with Planet or Plastic. At the same time, also start conversations with corporations that want to embrace change in the way they're doing their own business, using National Geographic as a way to improve in their own corporate sustainability efforts, and also in the way they're telling their own stories. So you probably have seen the cover already. I think Emma showed it at the beginning of this conference, the cover of Planet or Plastic, I wanted to show you this was a truly global effort. I was saying earlier, this went around the world with the same consistent message. We launched it across all of our platforms with our explorers and with people that really wanted to be connected with us and tell the story from their own point of view. This is Zooey Deschanel that really wanted to collaborate with us at the very beginning. And this is just the inception of a multi-year initiative. We are now rolling out marketing activations and ways for people to collaborate around the world. I was saying earlier, this is not just something that we want to do from inside. We really want to make sure that everyone out there can do the same. And I wanted to just end with a video that hopefully will inspire everyone to be an explorer in their own ways without signing up for a grant. Although, please, if you have an idea, just do it.
What does it mean to be an explorer? Depends on who you ask.
Exploration means to me...
When I hear exploring?
Exploration for me.
I think to be an explorer...
But once the question is out there, the answers start to sound familiar.
Going off the beaten path and trying something new.
Making new friends. Asking questions and then seeking that out.
Exploration begins with curiosity, and curiosity can come from anywhere. It can lead us to a bunch of places for a bunch of reasons. Some of them inspired.
Finding vibrant colors and beautiful murals.
Making sure that my daughter is doing something new and fun every day.
Some of them probably kind of stupid in hindsight.
I want to find that pool.
The truth is, we are all explorers, every day. Our base camps are coffee bars, and most of our summits don't even show up on a map. We don't go to these places because nobody's ever been there before. We go because we've never been there before. And we want to see it,
Awe-inspiring.
Taste it,
Having an open mind.
Touch it and try it for ourselves. That's the new breed of explorer. See, no matter how small a world, no matter how smart a phone, wonder will always need to wander.
I'm an explorer.
I'm an explorer.
I'm an explorer.
Hi, I'm an explorer.
And as long as there's the promise of a good story to tell, we'll always be up for a little adventure. So what does it mean to be an explorer? It means everything.
We have some really fantastic audience questions here that I want to get through as many as possible. So here's, with the straw banning debate, there was a lot of questions around people with disabilities. And one question is, those of us with disabilities cannot bring our own reusable straws and utensils. How can we move sustainability forward without stripping our independence?
I can actually answer this one because my brother's disabled and he often relies on a straw. But the problem is that plastic is so convenient and we're in a world where we're just making so much of it for our own convenience. And potentially people that are disabled or the elderly, this is what plastic's there for. It's there to be used in a really effective way, but we don't need to make billions of straws for everyone else. And then we can look at innovation as well, so designing straws so that we can keep reusing them. And we're just going to have to be more proactive and start cleaning them. So we have to take the burden, but we all need to work together. And plastic isn't the enemy. It's a great material, but we need to stop making so much of it and just keep it for the needs that it's there for.
Quick one for you, Lily. Do you still drink bubble tea in the United States?
Oh, yeah. I had one yesterday. I had one almost every day.
And another one for you. What are the main barriers to adopting the circular economy practices, like what happens in Taiwan here in the US?
That was an excellent question. So what you need is institutions, corporations, and government on board. You need to have visionaries in the business field who are willing to take on different business models. You need to have government willing to invest in innovators and scientists and providing incentives for businesses to work together. And I think one of the things that makes Taiwan different from the United States is they have these eco-industrial zones where they literally carve out a place of land where they put together entrepreneurs with established corporate leaders, with government access, and they're all in one place to talk about the same issue to solve those problems. So you need to have people on board, and it's not just a government thing, and it's not just an interesting thing. This is a triad of actors. I'm talking civil society being on board, as well as government policies and corporations all working together to make this change. And we have to have that sort of energy and drive here in the United States if we really want to make a difference, because we are one of the biggest polluters in the world.
Mm-hmm. This is for you, Manu. What is National Geographic's call to action through its Planet or Plastics campaign?
Yeah, great question. Our mission with Planet or Plastic is really to lead the charge, to reduce the amount of single-use plastic that goes into the oceans every day. So the work that we're doing with the scientific arm is really sending RFPs out to get ideas from scientists and innovators that really want to make an impact. But for the consumers, we're actually inviting everyone to take the pledge and reduce their use of single-use plastic. Really, we can make a difference every day by just aggregating the small changes in behavior that we have in our single lives. So we have created a pledge aggregator on our site, and more people are coming, and I encourage everyone to do it and share with your friends. It really takes just one less straw every day, one less coffee lid, one less plastic bag, to really then amount to a lot of single-use plastic that is not even used, because the problem is not recycling system need to improve. You talked about this earlier. Let's just start finding other solutions. To your point, it's super useful, and it's a commodity to have single-use plastic. There are viable alternatives, and we want to encourage everyone to start using those.
And let's just end on a quick question. What's one thing, this is for all of you, one sentence from each of you, what's one thing we can all do today after we leave here this afternoon to make a difference?
I would say be optimistic. I think it's a very glum topic that our oceans are filling with plastic, and it's a huge puzzle piece of solutions, and there's not one easy answer, but each one of you is a piece of that puzzle, and you can bring different skill sets into that puzzle itself. So just keep optimistic about the health of our oceans.
I would say lead in being curious and lead in being an explorer. Go out and try for yourself first. How does it feel like to use less single-use plastic, and then share it with your friends and family, and you become a leader as well.
Every choice that you make has an impact on someone or somewhere or something in the world. Every single choice. Think about those choices and know that they not only have power, but they demonstrate the type of person that you are and what you believe in and what your value set is. And keep that in mind whether you're at the grocery store, whether you're in a coffee house, whether you're raising your kids, whether you're at work. Those choices all add up and they all matter.
Thank you so much. We need a hand for our panelists.
Thank you, everybody. I'll take that. Yeah.